What's up, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 91 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you guys are doing great. Continue to be amazing. We got a really awesome show lined up for you today. But first, here's a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Del More. Del More is a real estate company formed by Sonia Moreno and David Delgado. Their focus and commitment is to always innovate and improve the process of buying and selling a home in Arizona's ever-changing market. So if you're looking to buy a home, make sure you contact Del More, a new real estate experience. If you guys caught episode 90, you saw we had none other than the one and only Emerge McVeigh. And let me tell you, Emerge got stories. I mean, goodness gracious, man. We went from touring with Nas, Ludacris, you know what I'm saying, like Papa Roach, and then beefing with Fred Durst, you know what I'm saying, like the list goes on, man. Like Emerge has definitely lived a life, and it was just truly an honor to have him on the show. I wish you nothing but continued success, my brother, and everything that you're doing now with your new ventures. And thank you for being a part of the show, man. All right. But today's guest has been a staple in the Arizona media scene for over 2 decades now. We're going to talk about his early days in media. We're also going to talk about a rap group he was a part of. We're going to talk about some careers he's influenced, his time on 9/11, and so much more. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Gibby Parra.
I'm Gibby Parra with Good Morning Arizona, Arizona's family, and all I'm saying is, just give me 5. That's a funny story, man. You know, I grew up in Yuma criminal, class of 1990, or as like we like to say, I paroled 1990. But my junior year, they opened up a new high school down there, and they opened up a radio and TV class. Well, the only reason why I took the class is I had a cousin, one of my favorite cousins, who was going to take the class, and it allowed me to drive over to that school, meet up with them for 2 hours, and then we'd go back to our original school. And I started taking that radio TV class. The problem is it was a 2-hour class. The first hour we'd have breakfast. The second hour we'd join class. Walked in on the second hour, and the teacher says, hey, it's your turn. I go, my turn? He goes, yeah, I need a 30-second commercial for you. The first hour, everyone wrote a script for the commercial. Now we're going to perform the commercial. See if you got to get it in 30 seconds. I'm like, all right, is your watch ready? And by the way he looked at me, I could tell something was up, but he goes in and he goes, all right, go. So I made a 30-second commercial about the breakfast spot we just had breakfast at. And I'm looking at the clock on there, and I nailed it, 30 seconds. And everybody starts laughing. I'm looking around like, who's next? Like, did I do it? You know, he goes, sit down. Right. Well, after class, he hands me a note. He says, meet me here after school. And I'm like, am I in trouble? And he says, just meet me here after school. Well, come to find out, it's a TV station. He gives me a tour of the TV station, and long story short, before I left that TV station, I had a job as a tape operator, is what they called it at the time, organizing tapes, putting them in a row to get them played for the newscast. Wow. I started in high school. I started in the TV business. I was a cameraman for a year, so I started in 89 in Yuma, moved to Tucson. By the time I moved here, it was January of 94. And around 96, my cousins were getting into some trouble, wanted to do something different, and they wanted to start doing some music. Yeah. And I'd always messed around with it, grew up in the hip hop era, so I was always rhyming, more freestyling than anything, just messing around with it. And my cousin recorded a song called Dope Game, and he wanted me to jump on it. But I was like, man, if I'm gonna do the dope game, I'm working in TV, I'm really not in the dope game, but I was like, all right. So from there, all the songs that I did with my cousins were always from a different level. Like even if depending on what songs they were talking about, they took it from the street angle, and I made mine sound street, but I kept it true to the game, knowing that whatever I was talking about was stuff that I did. So we were in a group called Strong Arm. We actually have a couple albums released they're on iTunes right now, and I never really pursued it because I was in TV. The problem is, right at the time that we were going through that, I had somebody at work, my boss, say, hey man, why don't you do stuff in front of the camera? kind of looked at him like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I like behind the scenes. I really don't like, you know, doing stuff in front of the camera. But long story short, for Good Morning Arizona, little by little, I became this character on the show. Like, there was a weather guy I'd hang out with named Brad Perry, and I was his camera guy. So wherever he was, I was the one shooting him, and so people would know my name because he would always shout me out, Gibby, come and move over this way. Gibby, try this. Gibby, do that. It got so bad, man, that I was at the store one day buying something, and I asked my brother about something we were buying. A lady turned around and said, Gibby? And I looked over at her like, I'm sorry, do I know you? She goes, oh, no, you're from Good Morning Arizona, right? And I'm like, how do you know that? Because I'm behind the camera.
Right.
But the show at the time was so big that people paid attention to it at that point. Like, they're listening like, hey, I can hear this guy's voice because he's always laughing and messing around. Or I'd tell Brad what to do sometimes. Hey, bro, jump over here, run over here, do this, jump up. And
So if you tuned in, you would know.
if you watch Good Morning Arizona, then you would either hear my voice or hear my laugh because we were doing something fun that day. This mixes in the music thing right here. So we were ABC, Channel 3 was ABC for the longest time. But then the people who own Channel 15 Scripps, there was a channel change. I don't know if you remember that. If you grew up here, 15 used to be Fox, it then became ABC. We were ABC, we became independent. 5 was independent, became CBS. Channel 10 was CBS, became Fox.
Exactly.
So the owners of the Lewis family, they're from Arizona. Governor McFarland's the one who started it back in the 50s. They said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put all my money into the station. All I want us to do is to beat Channel 15. So let ABC know they made a mistake. So we started Good Morning Arizona to compete against Good Morning America. Then we did Good Evening Arizona, Tonight Arizona. So I was working on Good Evening Arizona one night, and they came up with this thing called the Space Saver. And it was, I don't know if you remember it, it was a little bag that you would put your winter clothes in, vacuum out or suction out the thing, and then you could store your clothes in. So they said, well, let's see if it works. So they put it out on the middle of the floor. We had one of the camera guys drive over it, and the anchor at the time, Cameron Harper, says, hey, let's see if it worked. So I jumped from behind the camera, picked it up. He goes, oh, it's Gibby, our rapper extraordinaire. Because I would do little freestyles in the newsroom, you know. And he goes, hey, Gibby, can you do a little rap on that bag? I go, on this bag? And you got to remember, like, you would know when you freestyle, sometimes certain words come out that you really don't want them to come out. Like, you try not to, you're in. So we're live on air, and I do this rap on this space bag and how it didn't rip. Everybody was laughing. That was the first time I was on air, and from there on out, they would use me sparingly sometimes as like the rapping cameraman or in there. So much so, Tim and Willie were doing a show for Travis Tritt over at the Cricket Pavilion. 30,000 packed at the Cricket Pavilion. And they had me open up with them with the Uncle Cracker song called Follow Me or something like that. So they sang the song with Tim and Willie and the All Earl Band, and they had me come out, do a verse. Actually, I did 2 verses on stage with them at this country concert. Here's this young kid. I had a throwback Lakers jersey with a hat to the back. And here I am rapping at this country concert. And they were just loving it because at the time, that's how big Good Morning Arizona was. When they said, here's Gibby, like, you could hear, because their listeners were our viewers. It was just such a good mix back then. But that was the first time I was on air, and it kind of led to that. Let's see, if you think about the 28, it'll be 29 in January, the 2 in Tucson, and then you add the 2 in Yuma, 30 plus years of broadcasting, you run into a lot of people, a lot of youngsters, a lot of people wanting to get into the business and being behind the camera and working with them a long time. My whole thing was, for me, I always wanted to have fun at work, and when you think of somebody like Brad Perry, when we came to him, he was a comedian. He was never in TV. So my job was to I was his babysitter. Like, my job was to show him how the business worked, what to do, and then go from there. And whoever started at the TV station, whether it was Brittany Shipp, who is now in Philadelphia, there is Leslie, who's over in LA. There's a lot of interns that came through the station that, you know, you work with, that you look at them now, they're either in the business or they've gotten out of the business and doing things. Even Carrie Pena, who I remember she was an intern with us at one time and, you know, moved all the way up to one of our main anchors before now she owns her own production company. So, you know, you have your hands in a lot of folks' career. Tara Hitchcock, when she first started with us, who became probably one of the biggest parts of our show, you know, and we're still close friends because of it. In this business, and it becomes a small world. You know, it doesn't matter where you go. You could go somewhere and you run into them. You're like, hey, I remember you told me this, or you got me into that. There's a lot of folks here locally that I've gotten them their jobs. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, I'm getting inducted into the Silver Circle. That's the Rocky Emmy Silver Circle that they give. And one of the guys I'm getting inducted with is this kid from Yuma. And I say kid, he's older now. But I asked him, I go, hey, I didn't know you were from Yuma. He goes, hey, you came to my class. And you came and spoke at my class. And that's how I got into TV. And now he's getting inducted in the Silver Circle with me. Now, I didn't remember him because he was in high school at the time. But it's that same class that I took back in high school. And I kept going back to them because that teacher who got me that first job, I did anything for the cat because I said, man, you know what? I wouldn't be doing this if it was for you, you know? And so there's a lot of heads that got their TV start because I stopped by their class and said, hey, this is something that's fun. Here's something, you know, you could get into. And now that I'm getting inducted into the Silver Circle with this guy, that kind of makes you feel good. It's like a full circle thing. When you think about the Silver Circle, or it's even the Gold Circle, like El McCoy is going to get inducted that night too, because El McCoy's his 51st year with the Suns. So he's going into the Gold Circle. And that's when your friends, your peers, when they recognize you and when they nominate you and they put you in, that's for all the work that you've done throughout the years. And you've I've always been that type of guy. You know, I've always wanted to help people out. You know, you watch TV and you always see the people competing against each other, you know, like Anchorman, you see them going in. But come hang out with us in the morning, and anybody who's ever run into me, they'll tell you like, hey, this cat right here, and that's why. That's the way it should be, man. We're all family. When you're in a business like this, you got to help out when you can. If you're not helping out, then, man, you're in the wrong business because it could be cutthroat, but it doesn't have to be. On 9/11, actually, 9/11, Brad Perry and I were stuck in Jamaica. So at the time, Jamaica Air was going to start a nonstop from Phoenix to Jamaica. So they asked Brad Perry and I to go down to Jamaica for this.
Why not, right?
And we're like, yeah, we'll go. Yeah. So we get down there, and the second day that we're working is 9/11. We're actually we started in Ocho Rios, went to, Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, and we're getting ready to do a live segment. And they say, hold on a second, there's a plane going into a building in New York, so hold on, we're gonna go to that, we'll come back to you right now. So we asked the guys there at the hotel, hey, can you bring a TV? We wanna see what's going on, you know? And they pull out the TV. Once the TV turns on, you could see the plane going into the building. I'm like, how did they film the plane going into the building? At the time, I didn't know there was a second plane, and that was the video from the second plane. So now we're sitting there like we're not coming back on. I'm gonna tell you right now, if this is going on right now, so something's happening here. Well, the prime minister or the head of the Jamaican tourism were saying, hey, you know what, because of what's going on in America, let's pause this. People don't want to hear about this. We'll follow up on another day. So they gave everybody the option. If you want, go wait at the airport. And as soon as something opens up, you can fly back. If not, if whoever wants to stay, we'll still tape everything like normal, and you could use it when it's, you know, a good time to use it. Well, everybody, there was probably about 7 or 8 crews from across the country. They all went back to the airport. Brad and I said, hey, let's stay here and tape. So I'm not sitting at no airport. So the rest, for 2 weeks, we went from from one resort to the next, just taping stuff in the morning while checking stuff out while they were waiting at the airport. They had no idea that they had closed down. They had closed down all airports across the country. Remember, you couldn't fly. You couldn't go anywhere. They were trying to charter. They were trying to charter boats from there to go all the way, make it to Cuba, then into Mexico. They were thinking of everything. Meanwhile, Brad and I weren't thinking like that. We're like, bro, let's go to this next place. So our day consisted of getting up in the morning, taping our segments like normal, playing a round of golf, and then hanging out at this resort because it was all inclusive, whatever it was. So you learned to drink Red Stripes and hang out with the locals. And that's all you were doing the whole time. And you know, I call back and be like, man, we were stuck in Jamaica for 2 weeks. But the crazy part is, it was just that it was a crazy year, because when we finally got a chance to come back, I was on one of the first flights they let back into the air, and it's like everybody else's, you know, how quiet it was on takeoff, how quiet it was on landing, everybody cheering after everybody landed. And then we had to do it right over again because the Diamondbacks won the World Series, you know, right after that. So it was, you know, it was this wild thing. And I think that's the best part about the station, right? When you think of Oklahoma City bombing, the 9/11, when you think of Michael Jackson's death, the Colorado shootings, I got to go to Munich for Oktoberfest just because Lufthansa had a nonstop from Phoenix to Munich, or it was to Frankfurt. Then we did an Asian trip, which was through Korean Air. So to be honest with you, I got to travel the world, and I had the job pay for it. You know what I mean? It was all through work, and to me, I've been blessed, man. Honestly, you don't even get that anymore. Now, whenever, like, the Queen just died, back in the days, we would have flew to the UK. Yep, and we would have been right there. As a matter of fact, the UK story was right after Princess Diana died. Dan Davis and I were in the UK at Kensington Palace, just outside after she died, with all the flowers, just kind of like you see with the Queen, but it was like that for Princess Diana. And taking the channel over to Paris to see what it looked like over there, because she had died in that tunnel when the paparazzi were following her. So, man, I'm a world traveler, but through work. I was blessed through work. You know, a lot of times I got to see things that, man, they don't get to do that anymore. Now when that happens, oh, we have a CNN bureau. Oh, we have a Kelly bureau. Oh, we have that. Now you just use connections. You just don't go anymore like we used to. So when we're in Jamaica, you could hear what everybody else thought of America at that time.
Oh, yeah, man.
And it's surreal.
Pandemic, this was global.
Yes. See, that was touched by everyone. 9/11 was in there, and it's surreal when people who don't know you but know you're American come up to you and say, hey, I'm sorry for what's happening. And you're like, man, I don't know what's happening. I'm here with you. Like, I only see what's on the news over there, but you really couldn't feel it until you finally got back in. And then you remember how close everybody was. It was different. You looked at people a little different, man. You're a little excited. You were unified a little bit more. People liked each other a little bit more, man. And I was just talking about that with someone the other day. They said, hey, what has changed in the last 30 years since you've been in this? And I go, man, you know, the disdain that they have for media right now, like the hate that they have for media right now it's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I was getting to write my speech for this Silver Circle, and I was trying to figure out. My pops used to always tell me whenever I used to do something good, right? Let's say I threw a shutout in Little League, or I was a class president, and I'd be like, hey, Pops, you see, and he'd say, hey, you still laying yellow shit.
Right.
And anyone who has parents know, everyone who has kids, I should say, knows that those kids, when you're a baby and you haven't developed eating ready, you poop yellow shit. And that was his way of telling me to stay humble.
Keeping you grounded.
That was his way of saying, no matter how high, no matter how big I got, no matter what I did, hey, stay humble. And honestly, in everything that I do, I lost my dad in 2008 to colon cancer, lost my mom to COVID a couple of years ago. And I have to tell you, man, they were my two biggest supporters. and they only expected one thing from me, man, to be the best that I could and to help people up along the way. And if people love that and they see that and I bring a smile on that morning, like when people come up to me, if they tell me, oh my gosh, you made me laugh the other day, or that to me means the world to me, man, because I know that I was able to, for whatever is going on in their life, for those 2 minutes that I'm on, if I could make them smile or I could make them laugh, or even if they're shaking their head like my granddaughter and be like, man, that's silly, that right there is really what it's all about. It was just her birthday on the 12th, the day after 9/11. And so to me, that's the hardest, because you know your mom's is like your biggest supporter. Your mom's is your biggest supporter. That's the one. It doesn't even matter. There's still times my phone's, I feel like calling her and I'm like, well, who am I calling over here? But that's the one where I go in, she'll call me for every little thing. First time on there, I was like, hey mom, did you see that? And she's like, hey, she goes, how come you look tired? Do you need to get more sleep?
Right, and then the honesty will come. They're gonna hit you with that too. Bro.
How come you don't get more? I go,
Why don't you just enjoy the moment?
I just, yeah, but mijo, next time just get more sleep and you'll go.
Right.
All right, just want to give a big shout out to everybody in AZ. We're called AZ family for a reason, man. Been doing this 30 plus years, but it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the love that I get from everybody that I catch out on the street. They see me, they give out love, they give out hugs. I love that, man. You see me out on the street, just know you're going to get Gibby and not anybody else, man. I'm going to be me, and you already know that. So I love when you guys come and stop by, because you let me know what I'm doing, and you let me know if I need to get some rest or not. But hey, shout out to Just Give Me 5, because I got to tell you, we got to keep this movement going. We got to make this big. And hey, nothing but love.
And there you have it. Man, nothing but love and respect to my man Gibby. Gibby has been that dude in the scene for so many years now. Always enjoy watching him on TV. And it's always cool when you come across people who were fellow music artists as well and transitioned into different ventures and just ended up succeeding. You know, I love it. And congrats, my brother, on, you know, your achievement. You know, over 20 years in the business. That's huge, very well deserved. And I just want to thank you for being a part of our show here and the history that we are creating here. So thank you very much. Make sure you guys are following him on social media. Shout out to my brother Jimmy Nelson on the camera. Make sure you guys subscribe to that YouTube channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. All right. Well, this was definitely one for the books. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And hopefully my Cardinals don't play like shit this weekend. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.
Everything you get, you got